and gentlemen, welcome to Uncut Producers, episode 74. My name is George Terran. I'm one of your hosts for this evening, joined by the man, the myth, the moving legend, Mr. Travis Croft. How are you, Ken?
I am fine and dandy. Lockdown 2, Electric Boogaloo just trundles on. Fun and games abound here in... I've chosen not to call it Melbourne anymore. We are now officially the Forbidden Zone.
The Forbidden Zone. I like it. It feels like we're the Australian knockoff of No Man's Land from Batman.
Pretty much, or a bit like Escape from... It's a bit like Escape from New York.
True.
If only they'd built a wall around, it'd be less fucking idiots driving out to the country for holidays.
See, I think America has proven that walls don't work.
Yes, this is a fair point, and it didn't stop Snake either.
Yeah, that's true. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our chain movies. Last week, we talked to you all about the classic, wonderful Withnail I. And following on from that, we had Richard Griffiths. And we are picking out a Tim Burton classic with Richard Griffiths in it, Sleepy Hollow. So we're going to be talking about that. I am 3.5 seasons into Breaking Bad now, and Travis had a bit of homework to watch a Norman Wisdom movie,
which I haven't got to this week.
Unbelievable.
But I have located one.
You have located one. Okay, that's all right. I delayed my night by a week, so that's fair. But we've got a few things to talk about, so we'll get straight into Sleepy Hollow, shall we, Travis?
Do that. So, this is the 1999, I think, forgotten Tim Burton classic. Now, this is obviously based on the famous Washington Irving story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane is sent to Sleepy Hollow to investigate the decapitations of 3 people, the culprit being the legendary apparition, the Headless Horseman. This
played beautifully by Christopher Walken in this movie.
Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman, who doesn't have a line of dialogue, but that amazing, amazing face.
Yes.
We have Ichabod Crane played by Johnny Depp in his prime. His love interest / femme fatale of sorts, played by Christina Ricci. She plays Katrina. We have Miranda Richardson playing Lady Van Tassel. Casper Van Dien, the most beautiful man in the cosmos, playing Brom. I didn't even know he had a name.
The man with no name.
Richard Griffiths is in there. Ian McDermott is in there. Unfortunately, Jeffrey Jones is in there, which is a bit creepy.
Yeah.
Michael Goff's in there. It's a wonderful, wonderful cast. And I'd also like to note a wonderful little cameo from Christopher Lee, which I enjoyed seeing immensely.
True. And you're forgetting Miranda Richardson.
Sorry?
Miranda Richardson.
I didn't say Miranda Richardson.
You did?
I did.
Okay, well, screw me then.
So this is scored by, of course, none other than Danny Elfman, who is Tim Burton's favorite composer.
Yep.
They had a great collaboration starting with Batman in 1989 and.
Well, I think he even did a Pee Wee Herman movie, right?
Not sure. I think he might have, because he was, of course, I was talking to Caroline, who watched this with me on the weekend. I was pointing out Danny Elfman was originally a rock star.
Yeah.
Who made that slide sideways a little bit like others have.
He did Oingo Boingo?
Oingo Boingo. But he also, it's interesting, he also did like other films after, Dick Tracy, and of course Danny Elfman's one of the most in-demand film, composers going around today. I hadn't seen this, I think, for about 20 years. It is available in Australia streaming on Stan.
Yes.
So it's probably available elsewhere. I think you can buy it and download it via all your usual... It's
available on Prime Video as well.
All your favourite places you want to watch it. Easy to find for once. It hadn't been about 20 years since I saw this, and I was absolutely, extremely pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed watching this again. Not for 1 minute did it drag, or was it like, oh, this is old, Aged poorly. This film is aged extremely well. And
absolutely, even the special effects.
Special effects in particular, I mean, like the only real noticeable special effects in this are those of the Headless Horseman.
Where the head is reattached at the end.
Or the tree that the Headless Horseman jumps out of.
That works pretty well.
Oh, I'm not saying it badly. Those are probably just the only really noticeable CGI moments. There's probably other CGI going on in the film, but it's one of those little subtle CGI things that probably you're not really supposed to be noticing it. But you're right, that holds up really well. For my opinion, as to why it held up so well is the whole film looks like it's been shot on sets.
It was.
Which of course it was. They didn't actually go back in time to a fictional place.
No, but I mean, the whole forest, they built an indoor forest to film it all in. And it was, at least up until a few years ago, I think, the biggest internal forest soundstage, essentially.
I would believe it. I think why that works here is where some filmmakers might build an indoor forest and make it try and look real. Like, you wouldn't even notice it's an indoor forest. Tim Burton doesn't have that problem. He's not interested in realism, necessarily.
Yeah.
He's not interested in building a set that makes you forget it's inside Pinewood Studios in London, right?
Yeah.
It's highly stylized. He's open to using things like wonderful matte paintings as a background occasionally. I assume they're matte paintings. I feel they look like matte paintings. They could be CGI, I guess. And the whole thing has that really Burton-esque vibe to it, and you saw the same thing in the Batman films he directed, in Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd later on. Whereas, he has that classic look of it looks. If you stop and look at it, you go, that's a set.
Yeah,
it almost looks like a theater set in a way, like parts of it. But because it sort of fits in with the whole aesthetic of the entire film. It just works perfectly with what he's trying to do with his directorial style, with the costuming, the lighting. Everything works perfectly together to feel that sort of weird, sort of Burton-esque gothic nature. And people remember when he directed Alice in Wonderland. People were going, "Oh, of course," but I think before that it was like Sleepy Hollow, of course.
Yeah.
I think the whole the aesthetic of a film and making it look like it's a set. And not being and the whole stylistic choices he makes means it doesn't look aged or dated at all because he's not relying on CGI. Yeah. His style doesn't age.
Absolutely right, and it really highlights how good he works with within his idea of the fairy tale. 99% of his movies that he's ever made are essentially fairy tales of some variation or other. If you look at Ed Wood. And it had that hyper stylized pastel style to it. This, obviously, Alice in Wonderland, even Big Fish. There's that fairy tale element to it. Sorry, Archimedes is asking to come in.
The dog is asking to be let in, so our guest host will be with us in a moment. Archimedes will have something to say about it, I'm sure.
But what really lends itself so well to this is, I think, the cinematography is truly stunning, because so often when there's that moody, foggy night, this is a lot of that. It's so beautifully volumetric, and it's used to basically create a character out of the forest that surrounds Sleepy Hollow. And it feels very claustrophobic in spite of how rural and distant and alone it feels as well, when he's kind of saying, "Oh, there's a little town up the street known as Sleepy Hollow." It feels bizarrely close and insular. It's almost like a quarantine movie in its own right.
It's actually, the cinematography is by Emmanuel Lubezki, whose name doesn't scream familiarity to me. He is a 3-time Oscar winner for The Revenant, Birdman, Gravity. He was also nominated for Tree of Life, The Children of Men, The New World, A Little Princess, and he was nominated for Sleepy Hollow as well, which I think is...
I can see that. Yeah. So looking at the way Revenant is shot, the way that Children of Men is that gritty, sort of like muted greys and browns, and that's what Sleepy Hollow is plastered with. The only real light is from fire. Yeah. There's no daylight.
Exactly. The whole thing could be set at night.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I think the cinematography is a real standout here. It's amazing, and it does really evoke a very creepy sense. I think it goes as far as say this may well be, I think, Tim Burton's scariest movie, if that's possible. I mean, Edward Scissorhands not really. I mean, he hasn't really done a straight horror film before.
No, I don't think he has. It's definitely got that creepy chill factor to it, but with the kind of buffoonish nature of Ichabod Crane, certainly in the first half of the movie, it has that Tim Burton-esque whimsicality.
It does it nicely because you got the creepiness factor, you've got some gore factor going on, but as you sort of said, the whole way through we've got the sort of a light-hearted nature of Ichabod Crane's character being kind of the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
And this is what Johnny Depp does so well in Tim Burton films in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think there's a single kind of lacking actor performance in it either. Every single person who comes in, like Christina Ricci as Katrina Van Tassel is beautiful. She is this slightly creepy element to her character, the way that she, like, there's just little bits that it's designed to be creepy, like cutting off birds' legs and throwing them into stuff, but she's so caring and considerate, and she's always dressed in white. There's that duality to her that plays really well. Miranda Richardson is creepy as fuck, and I love her for it. Michael Gambon kind of feels a little proto-Dumbledore, because he's trying to play this older Gentile fellow, but he's kind of out of it yet, and he's being played for the fool. Casper Van Dien is great as the other handsome man.
Handsome, brave, foolhardy. I think of the character of Gaston from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like that really sort of really arrogant. Who the fuck are you? You're gonna fuck with me. I'm 6'4". I'm like full of muscle, right?
Yeah, and then the Council of Elders, Jeffrey Jones, Richard Griffith, Ian McDiarmid, and Michael Gough. They're just a wonderful motley crew, and I wish that there was a movie that you could just almost like Ancient 11.
Really cool. It's like a scene where he walks into the party. Ichabod Crane walks into the party, and everybody's there, including your eldest 11. And it almost feels like, parts of it almost feels like a murder mystery to start with, right? It feels like something like Gosford Park. And in a way, Johnny Depp's almost the Stephen Fry character from that film, the buffoonish detective who comes in and sort of stumbles upon the culprit all the same.
Yeah, the opening, that murder mystery-esque kind of thing, just suddenly clicked into my mind. Knives Out. It's like a Tim Burton take on that. It just kind of feels like that kind of thing, and then obviously it goes off in its own way. But it's great. It's really, really delightful. This was a nice little gem for us to watch, I think.
I would also like to point out, I think the action scenes are fucking outstanding. Like there is as the film moves on, there is some fairly heavy action scenes and chases, horses and stuff like that, and they are handled beautifully. I don't think Tim Burton's a director we necessarily associate with action movies or a great action film director, though the first two Batman films certainly had their fair share.
Did they really?
The second one in particular had that really great scene at the start where it was the circus performers and Batman sort of goes through with the car and stuff and fights them off.
That's essentially a big stunt. There's not actual real fight choreography or anything in it of a particular state, whereas this one, he really collects them off. Because, Johnny Depp is kind of wrestling around on top of the carriage and being dragged around by horses and things, and it gets in nice and close with some of them, and it works really
well. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel like some films you watch and they'd be like a car chase or something, and it'd be like, what?
And I mean, it feels within character as well for the people that are doing it.
You mentioned Knives Out. There's a car chasing Knives Out, but it fits. You know, this is a horse chase, so like more like something you might see in a Western. So in a way, he's actually kind of, you know, inserted some problem. I mean, I don't know if Tim Burton's a fan of Westerns. It never really occurred to me that he was. But, I mean, he's inserted some classic sort of Western bits from, cowboy movies that you might see, you know, with him as he's landing on a horse backwards and stuff like that. So it's really been... I would just like to show that there were some good car chases in the first Batman movie. The first Tim Burton 89 Batman film. I don't want to have him come up short. I don't want to get a sternly worded letter from Tim saying I've sold him short. But even the action scene fits. The actions scenes fit perfectly in amongst...
It serves the story well, rather than, we're at that moment where they're satisfying a certain demographic. Okay.
The third act needs an action sequence to keep the kids interested before they tune out with their smartphones, because there were no smartphones in 1999.
But at the same time, the ending is really muted as well. You know, the culprit gets their comeuppance, and it's grisly, beautifully grisly, and then in almost the anti Hans Christian Andersen style fairy tale, where it usually ends up really dark. This one has more optimism to it,
which is again probably against type for someone who's well known for dark, moody films. But they're dark but moody but lighthearted. And I think this is a wonderful example of what him at his best. I think his work in the 90s was probably his strongest years. And I know that's probably going to be a controversial call for fans of Mr. Burton out there.
I think at least it's most consistent.
I mean, we're coming here. We've gone from Beetlejuice to Batman to Edward Scissorhands to Batman Returns to Ed Wood to Mars Attacks to Sleepy Hollow. That is a hot run of films. Though some people don't like Mars Attacks, I do. Even some people like The Planet of the Apes, which came next in 2001. Felt it was kind of a miss for me, and it's been a bit hit and miss since then. You know, Big Fish, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland, Dark Shadows, and so on and so forth. And then we end up with Dumbo, which is and now Beetlejuice 2 apparently is the next thing on his agenda. So
I don't think we're going to see that.
I like the look of that, but in Tim we trust. But that's a hot run of films he's making, and he was really on his game, and he worked so well with Johnny Depp back then. It's if you haven't seen it, I feel like, as I said at the start, I think this is a forgotten classic. I think this gets lost in the mix of all the films that he's made over the years. People very fondly remember Edward Scissorhands, Batman now, because we were talking the other week that Michael Keaton might be coming back. Sweeney Todd to a degree. People love Alice in Wonderland. That made all the monies. But I think this is the one that this is probably, I would say that I think this is maybe in his top 3 films he's ever made. In my opinion.
What would your top 3 Tim Burton movies be?
Ed Wood would be one.
Right.
I would, off the top of my head, I would give it to Beetlejuice and then Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, see, I don't think I can settle on 3 for my top 3, because Ed Wood is great, Beetlejuice is great, this is great, Big Fish is beautiful, and personally I think it's probably his most grown-up movie. And, everyone's got a soft spot in their heart for the original Batman.
I mean, I am a huge fan of Burton's Batman. I think it's massively underrated, simply because the Nolan films are so good. But I think now there's a level of nostalgia for those films, as I said, that Keaton's become such a big star that, people look back fondly. I think there's a nostalgia, even for stuff like Mars Attacks years on. I think he was maybe ahead of his time with that one. But, I mean, it's certainly arguable. I think this deserves to be in the conversation. So I think for part of that top 3, I think it's one that is not... I think it slips under the radar of people when they talk about Tim Burton. This isn't one that they talk about. And it probably should be, because I think it's as good as anything he's ever done.
It does actually bring up an interesting thought process thinking about Tim Burton's Batman, especially the controversy, I suppose, around that, with Tim Burton being the Batman director, Michael Keaton being the Batman. There was a lot of controversy about that, and no one had any questions or qualms about Jack Nicholson being Joker. And then every Batman movie since, it feels like there's been some unusual casting or controversy around the casting of characters since then. Usually it's been about the Jokers. Like, you look at Heath Ledger, people were kind of going, really? Him as Joker? And then he silenced everyone. Jared Leto was Joker in the spin-off thing. Okay, that's an odd choice, and it was a wasted... It was kind of a non-entry in Suicide Squad. You think about Ben Affleck being cast as Batman. You think of Robert Pattinson being cast as Batman. They seem to be willing to take the risk on that.
Batfleck was controversial.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, I remember there's if you haven't seen it, people, there's a wonderful documentary called Superman Lives: What Happened, about the Superman movie that Burton might have directed. And I think I was talking again to Caroline about this on the weekend while we were watching this. Like, I think now, when you look at the form he was in this period of time in his career, I would have fucking loved to have seen. I know there was a whole meme about like the suit and the shots and stuff that leaked out of Nicolas Cage wearing a suit. But I would have loved to have seen what he did with that character.
And especially with Nicolas Cage. At that time in Cage's career, that would have been...
Well, we're talking Rock, Face Off, Leaving Las Vegas. He was hot at that point in time. Like Con Air, he was super hot in the second half of the 90s. He was one of the biggest actors on the planet before he became super fucking weird and just started making whatever. It's hard
and he's such a big fan of Superman as well. You gotta think that would have brought out...
Add into that mix, Kevin Smith wrote the script, or at least he wrote a version of the original script that I think Burton got other guys to come in and work on it as well.
Yeah.
So potentially, we were in a point where we may have had a Tim Burton Superman movie starring Nicolas Cage, written by Kevin fucking Smith. He may have got a writing credit there, depending on how much...
Talk about a weird what-if world, eh?
And the documentary Superman Lives is a wonderful little documentary. It was crowdfunded. But they actually interviewed Tim Burton in the doco, and I think he actually will talk about his Batman film. And he gets his line. He says, "The internet blew up about casting Keaton, and the internet didn't even exist yet."
Yes.
And I always think of that.
I would so love for them to go, all right, you know what? We haven't been able to produce any movies because of COVID. Let's do an animated version of that. We'll get Tim Burton in to direct it. We've got Nicolas Cage to do the voice. Basically bring the talent in and just go, okay, animated version. That would be cool. That would
be super cool. I'm not going to hold my breath.
It would just be a wonderful possibility.
I mean, Tim Burton does animation. He's interested in animation.
Exactly.
So, I mean, like, it would be...
He started as an animator at Disney, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, he's sort of gone back to a world of animation a few times. Stop Go, but other types as well. But yeah, I don't think I'll be holding my breath for that one. But Nick would probably be up for it because he's up for anything.
It's true.
They actually did pay, if you haven't seen it, actually, because they got crowdfunded so well, they actually did kind of do some rough recreations of scenes that were originally planned to be in the film. And geez, I think that film would have been incredible. It would have been incredible. Like, there's a story around it where when Bryan Singer was making his version of Superman, he had the photo of Nicolas Cage in the Superman outfit in his folder with him every day. And whenever any of the studio execs would give him shit, he'd get it out and he'd go, "You were going to make this. You were going to make this movie." And it became a joke, but like, sorry, Brian, if you're not in jail yet. I didn't say that. It's his film's the meme now. No one likes that movie except me. But it would have been hot. So next week, though, I think we got a treat this week. I think we're getting a treat next week. We did agree.
Yeah.
This week we're going to move on to I think I could say it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. And that film is the 1997 Paul Verhoeven masterpiece. I'm going to use that word liberally here. Masterpiece, Starship Troopers.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is a beautiful satire parody that probably is even more poignant today, considering how social media channels and things like that work with every single person, except us, because we're terrible at it. So like, oh, click the bell to subscribe and all of that stuff, and pop-ups coming up onto the screen.
Would you like to know more?
Yeah. No one wants to know more about armchair producers.
Yeah, so I think Paul Verhoeven is one of my favorite directors. I mean, even Showgirls has something to advertise it for. It's kind of so awful it's good. But Starship Troopers, we are following the most beautiful man in the cosmos, Casper Van Dien, to this film. I think this is his breakout role, if you will. If he ever had a breakout role, he was the... there's a wonderful Joe Blow, What the Fuck Happened to This Movie video on Starship Troopers, if you're interested to watch it. But basically, Verhoeven didn't have the money to cast names, so he cast TV stars.
Yeah.
That's why we have Denise Richards, we have Patrick Muldoon from Melrose Place, and we have, of course, Neil Patrick Harris from Doogie Howser. And along with your, I think what we call them, character actors, Michael Ironside, Clancy Brown, Rue McClanahan, as is in there for a nice little cameo
and
as well.
The cheap Gary Busey, Jake
Busey. When you can't afford Gary, you get Jake. So yeah, this is. I think Dina Meyer was on 90210 as well, actually. So it's a bargain basement cast. But I'm going to save it all for next week because this is.
I love the IMDb top word for it. Humans in a fascistic, militaristic future war wage war with giant alien bugs. And that perfectly sums it up.
I think that the classic thing for me is, we won't go too deep this week, is that essentially, just to give a taste of why I like it so much, is this: how the fuck this movie ever got made in 1997? Because it sure as fuck would never get made today. No way would this film get made today.
It would be such a different movie.
No one could have made it but someone like Verhoeven.
Yeah.
And again, if you watch the Joe Blow video about this, it does explain, in course, in Verhoeven's opinion, why he managed to get this film made. And I'll save that story for next week. Or you can watch the Joe Blow video. It's on YouTube. It's free. And they make wonderful, wonderful little mini documentaries about cinema. I would recommend it. It's a nice little companion piece to Starship Troopers. But we will be talking that next week. So tune in if you would like to hear about excellent, extremely good-looking Nazis.
All right. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about Breaking Bad.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. So you're quite late to the Breaking Bad party.
Purposefully so, because I was not able to get on the bandwagon when it first came out. And hype for this show, the ravenous fan base, even to this day, put so much expectation on this show that I was never going to be able to watch it and not have that affecting. So I've given it a lot of rest. 7 years at this point since it finished, excluding El Camino.
7, really? Is that long?
Yeah, it was 2008 to 2013. And I have to say, this is a very good show, but it is not one that I personally enjoy.
What's your problem with it?
Well, everything about it is brilliant. The cinematography for each of the episodes is phenomenal. The actors, Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul, primarily, are sublime in these roles. They have never been better and probably never will be. Because I feel like this kind of storytelling, it is almost entirely focused on the characters and the character development. It doesn't necessarily matter about what's happening around them. I'm in the middle of watching the episode Fly, where they're just trying to catch a fly in the lab. And it's utterly pointless except for expanding the characters of each of those two and showing how much they've changed from when we first met them, basically. And that is a masterclass in character delivery. But I find a strange disconnect because there is that element of comedy throughout it all that doesn't quite feel like it's in the right place for me. Because it's dealing with very, very dark stuff a lot of the time, and then you have the brevity moments of the silliness of that, and you can't help but look at it and go, okay, that is good. I see what they're doing, but every time it happens, but they jump that kind of genre back a little bit, it pulls me out of it. And I can't get fully invested in it and just go, yep, I'm into the ride, take me. It just, every time it changes that kind of feel, it just pulls me out and I'm like, oh, yeah, I see what they're doing. Go. That's impressive. It's not cool.
I would have put money on you not liking the show.
No, I appreciate literally everything that everyone...
I think the key thing for me is why I would have put money on you not liking it, though, is what I call the Donnie Darko effect.
Okay.
Is that my now ex-wife, when we first met, that was when Donnie Darko had just come out. And everybody had talked the film up to the fucking nth degree. Remember the hype about that movie, how it came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And someone had told her it was a scary horror film, which you're like, what? But anyway, she'd been told it was this amazing, incredible, scary horror film. And she went and saw it, and of course, it's not a horror film.
Nope.
And because of the amazing amount of hype from everybody she knew who told it, so it couldn't possibly live up to those high standards. For me, I still to this day hear how good The Wire is. And every time, I think 3 times now, I've tried to watch that show, and I get about halfway through the first season and go, does it get good soon? Like, what's so good about this? Like, I guess it's shot well, and it's, I don't know, the acting's good, I guess. Like, I just don't get what's so good about The Wire. But so, the amount of hype about Breaking Bad, it is so big. It is so ubiquitous as being one of the greatest TV shows ever made. I don't know how it could possibly live up to that hype.
It's not living up to the hype, because it's generally actually kind of the quality that I can see is worthy of the hype. Just purely personal. It's not the kind of show that I feel invested in. I'm going to continue watching till the very end, especially because even to this day, my mind is haunted by the episode Aussie Man. That is so high on everyone's...
Are you enjoying this story? Are you finding yourself keen to find out what happens next, at least?
No.
I don't know how that's possible.
Because I look at the character of Walter White, and I can see his character development, and every single thing makes logical sense. Bryan Cranston is fantastic at emoting and taking you on that journey. And the same with Aaron Paul's character, but it's just not connecting with me personally. And
I know, I wouldn't say, actually, when people would ask me, I actually don't know that I actually enjoyed it.
That's my point.
I endured it because each episode, I found the show so insanely tense.
Yes.
Like, the tension they build is, Vince Gilligan's amazing at it. And as you said, all the elements of the actual, they put into the show are great, but obviously I connected with it at a level you didn't, because it wasn't, I was different, anyway, different tastes for different folks. But I found that I could never watch maybe more than 1 episode, maybe 2 at a time, because I would be worn out after 2 episodes of this, because it is so tense.
I'm not enjoying it as a viewing experience, but I am really enjoying it on a technical level. The writing, the filming of it, the acting, it is all brilliant. It is masterclass level stuff. But as a general narrative to enjoy, nah, not for me.
I wouldn't have thought, like I said, it just didn't feel to me like the kind of show you would have liked. But as I said, like, sometimes, things don't click. I mean, like, I I picked up Spider-Man again this week on the PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
Universal acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
Universal. I just can't get into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just not for
Who'd have
everyone.
thought personal taste would come into it?
I know, right? Or like I said, The Wire. Universal. If there's there's usually a conversation about the greatest TV show of all time. It comes down to three: Breaking Bad, Sopranos, and The Wire.
Yeah.
Now I did love Sopranos and I did love Breaking Bad, but I just can't get into The Wire. So occasionally one of these things is just not going to click with your taste in television, though. I wonder, would you be interested in trying out Better Call Saul when you're finished?
Now, the character of Saul Goodman definitely is the most enjoyable character, and I am curious to watch at least the first season to see if I enjoy it. But if it's more of a character piece, it's akin to Breaking Bad, like how Saul becomes Saul.
Well, that's the story, but I mean, we're at season 5 now, and he's just getting there. So I'll give you that heads up about season 1. It takes its time. And I think that's one of the wonderful things for me about Breaking Bad is it doesn't rush. As you've sort of said, they will spend an episode just building these characters, and so they've done the same thing with Better Call Saul.
I think that is possibly one of the reasons why I'm not able to just fully invest is because the show has kind of been spoiled for me with, like I knew about the death of the girlfriend before that was going to happen because everyone was talking about it. And just general plot points, like, okay, it's been spoiled for me. And with a character-based thing, I think that's one of the few types of movie narratives that can be spoiled for me because it's not. This is definitely not the show about the big action sequence or anything like that. But
that's a fair point. So it's the same thing for me. If I went off and tried to watch Game of Thrones now, again, another show I just can't get into, but everybody loves.
Yeah.
I know about the Red Wedding. I know because South Park parodied it.
There's no actual build-up in that situation. I know how.
Everyone hates Joffrey, and I know he dies because, again, it just became part of the cultural zeitgeist. Yeah, that's what happened. So I know season 8 sucks. Apparently, is it season 8? The last season sucks.
Yeah.
And and I know what happens at the end of it because again, people have been whinging about it now for a couple of years. So,
it's someone who's never watched the original Star Wars trilogy. And it's like, but that guy's Luke's father. You know it. You haven't been able to escape that fact, and so the build-up and the reveal of it, it's not as impacting and as emotional. So, kind of being told, seeing this slow decline in fucking evil man that Walt White becomes, is like, I already know how that's going to happen. So the emotional weight of this is hugely lifted.
So there is some benefit to watching it as it sort of goes to air.
Absolutely.
If you can. And I don't even know, I think it was on Foxtel here in Australia when it was actually being broadcast the first time around. I just stole it because I don't want to subscribe to fucking Foxtel. Okay, may have actually had Foxtel back then. I don't know. But yeah, it was... It's one of those problems when you try to come to something years later. I mean, for me, I don't think I knew what the big end of The Sopranos was, because that's another very famous final episode. Some would say the greatest final episode of a TV show of all time. I don't think I knew what happened, but it's one of those episodes where, well, spoilers if you don't want to know what happens at the end of The Sopranos. I'll loosely spoil it a bit here. Basically, the producers let you make up your own mind about what happens at the end.
Yes.
It does not tell you what happens. So in that way, it was kind of impossible to be spoiled because it wasn't like, Tony came out as gay and decided to become a drag queen or something. I don't it's open. So
I remember there being so much debate and hatred for the way that it ended. Like, that is a whole fucking way to finish a show, especially one that was as highly regarded as that.
And they wanted more, and they had the compromise. So I will spoil it properly now, but there is a scene. Tony is in a restaurant with his family. there is an insinuation that people are coming to kill him, and it cuts to black.
Yep.
But the guys, the creator of the show, wanted something like a couple of minutes of black. But he had to negotiate with the TV, the network, about how much black he was allowed to have. I think it was 20 or 30 seconds or something in the end. But he wanted way more black screen than what he got. So I guess at that point in time he had won enough credibility that he was able to go, hey, I get what I want when it comes to my show when you've created the fucking Sopranos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not sure Breaking Bad's ending is quite on the same level, but it's pretty good. I would recommend, if it hasn't put you off even more, to check out the movie from last year, the Netflix movie.
El Camino.
El Camino. And I thought that was... Well, I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the characters. You enjoy the characters, at least?
It's hard to say whether you enjoy characters in the Breaking
Bad. You feel like are you invested in the characters?
In Jesse's character? Yeah. I think so. Oh my god, I fucking hate Skylar.
Everybody hates Skylar. Everybody, even George hates Skylar. Thank you, it's not just me.
No, burning fucking hell.
It was this whole series of articles at the end of the show when it was broadcast the first time about how it was an example of misogyny. It's why misogyny is rampant. It's because everybody hates Skylar, and I'm like, no, we hate Skylar because she's fucking annoying.
Yes, consistently annoying, breaks the scene so much. She's just infuriating, and not in a way that actually serves you as an audience to kind of get empathy for what Walter White's doing or any of the other characters around. She is just fucking annoying. If it was designed to make you empathize with Walter White more, then brave way of telling the story, sacrificing someone's whole performance because you are going to be a fucking asshole. People are not going to like you, but it serves the story. Much like the poor kid who played Joshua. Everyone hated him. He's forever going to be Joffrey the fucker. But it doesn't do that in every scene where there's issues with Walter White, with the kids, with the fucking sister. She's just infuriating.
She's unbearable. And I watched Scully again recently, which she's in. She has a small role in... Sorry, Scully, not Scully. And she plays exactly the same character. She's so annoying in that movie. You do that so well. Anna Gunn is wonderful. If that's what I assume that's what they intended her to do. But yeah, I think the real standout for me, I was very invested in those characters at the end. So I know a lot of people didn't like El Camino very much. They thought it was a bit weak because, no spoilers here, Walt's not in it much. So, there's like, can Jesse's character carry an entire 90-minute, 2-hour, essentially, episode? And the answer for someone who really is invested in those characters is yes, but if you're not, I can see how you probably might find it a bit dull. And plus also, you're going to be you're smashing through it, right? For me, I've had nothing new Breaking Bad for 7 years, and so, new content, yay! Apart from Better Call Saul, as I say, Bob Odenkirk is wonderful as Saul in the show, and I would say, and I've said it before, but Better Call Saul is arguably as good.
Giancarlo Esposito, love him.
He's incredible, and did you see he's going to be the bad guy in Far Cry 6?
Yeah.
And you're like, I think I said on Facebook, hope he likes playing villains because
he's very good at it.
He was the bad guy in The Mandalorian.
Yes.
I would imagine somebody is lining him up to be a bad guy in the Bond film at some point in the future.
Oh, fuck yes.
I mean, if they make another film, who knows what the fuck's going on with the latest Bond film. I've heard they've gone to reshoots, but come on.
You've got to think that the big things that people are eyeing him up for: villain in Bond, villain in Marvel, villain in DC.
I respect the man. He's just kicking back, collecting those checks, right? Like, I mean, make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah. as they say, make £400 worth.
And I don't imagine he comes cheap now, considering he's such a recognizable face. But I honestly think the problem is they would be like, hey, he's the Chicken Man. They wouldn't actually, I have to be honest. I saw his face pop up in the Far Cry 6 trailer. I'm like, oh my god, it's Gus Fring. And I'm like, I don't actually remember the actor's name. Now I've looked him up, and now I remember. He's actually born in Denmark. Born and grew up in Denmark. It's a piece of trivia for you. I'm glad you're giving it a go. You're a good sport for trying. I think if I was not enjoying something, I don't know that I'd push through to the end.
Well, like I say, the quality of the show, everything about it is brilliant. It is not, on a technical level, it is not hard to watch because it is a masterpiece. You always want to watch masters work as just a pure entertainment. No, it's not entertainment.
It's a hard watch. It's not something you kick back and put on in the background while you're checking your phone. It's a hard watch.
I think this is definitely the type of narrative storytelling that you get the most out of when you are watching it, when it is totally fresh, and when you have a week between it, so you can kind of digest what you watched, you can talk about it with your friends, and actually build more of an understanding. Whereas doing it the way I'm doing it, smashing 3 or 4 episodes a night, I'm not getting that.
I don't know. I think I'd probably hate it too, because that's a lot of Breaking Bad in one night.
Yeah,
the excellent point you made there is it's fresh.
Yeah.
And like we said a moment ago, it's been spoiled just through the zeitgeist. And people sort of go, hey, it's been out for 7 years. I feel comfortable now to talk about it.
Its own success in a way.
In a way, yeah, I can see it. It was difficult to go back and watch something so many years later.
Yeah. What have you been doing?
Well, I was going to talk about this last week, but he had to go to the toilet, because we're fucking professional like that.
I'll get a colostomy bag fitted.
Yeah, that's the idea. The new Australian drama/horror film, Relic.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this has gone straight to streaming. This is available for streaming on Stan, which is the Australian streaming service. I believe it's available in the UK. I couldn't say about other countries, but I would imagine it would be. I saw it got a review in The Guardian this week, and it was glowing. It was a 5-star review.
Wow.
Interesting, I posted I was watching it, and Shay asked me whether it was worth watching, and I said, maybe. It's a maybe on the Shay scale.
Okay.
So, a daughter, mother, and grandmother are haunted by a manifestation of dementia that consumes their family's home. In terms of people we know, there's a very small cast of this film. Probably fairly low budget. It's Australian. The face I instantly recognised at the start of the film was that of Emily Mortimer, who, for me, is best known from the Newsroom. Or just Newsroom. She plays Mackenzie McHale on Newsroom, which is one of my favourite shows. She's been in a few other little bits and pieces around the place, including Mary Poppins Returns, Lars and the Real Girl, Match Point. But you're probably going to recognise her face. She's one of those faces that kind of you see around the place without being necessarily a big star. If you're Australian, you might recognise Robin Nevin as the grandmother. She, for me, she was in The Castle. She was in one scene in The Castle, which is a classic Australian movie. She's in a couple of the Matrix films as well. And the other main star is the daughter of the youngest cast member, Bella Heathcote, who plays Sam. And she was in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which is an awful, awful, awful movie.
Yes.
But she's in The Man in the High Castle as well, but not exactly a household name at this point in time. This movie desperately wants to be The Babadook.
Okay.
Have you seen The Babadook?
Yes, loved it.
The Babadook is fucking great. If you have not seen The Babadook, so good. One of the great Australian movies. However, but I think essentially, I'm going to spoil the Babadook for you. But it's a metaphorical horror film. It's got a monster in it, but it's about loss. If I recall correctly, it was a while ago since I saw it. The monster is like a manifestation of one of the characters' loss of her partner or something. So it's a very clever, aside from being very scary, is a very clever little horror film in a sense. It's actually trying to tell. It's in a message through. It's not just a supernatural, guy in a hockey mask stabbing people. It's got something going on behind. It's got something going on upstairs. And Natalie Erica James, who is the director and writer of this film, wants to do something desperately similar, but she fails, unfortunately, miserably.
Oh.
I mean, honestly, if you put it in the title of your film, "They're haunted by a manifestation of dementia that consumes their family's home," whereas the Babadook, where that film, what was successful about that film is it was a Trojan horse of a movie. It's a scary movie, but it's got a message or something it's trying to say behind the monster. And if you just sat down and had a couple of beers and watched the Babadook with your girlfriend, and felt good about the fact she grabbed onto you in the scary bits, you feel good about that. It's a scary movie, but it's got something. If you stop and think about it after, you're like, oh, they were doing that thing, and that meant that, But it wasn't up front and center with its message. It was buried.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, which I think is the way you'd want to do it. Whereas this one's up front going, it's about dementia. The monster's dementia, guys. The monster's dementia. In case you hadn't noticed, the monster's dementia. It's just...
It's a blunt
Sorry?
It's a blunt incident.
It's very blunt about it, which, I mean, is obviously an artistic choice by the director, but I don't understand it. Because... instantly, so there's actually not a monster. It's supposed to be scary, but in this horror movie tropes going on, but you're like, there's actually no monster. The monster is inside their grandmother's head who has dementia. I'm like, well, that doesn't make it scary. And there's no payoff.
Actually trying to be scary?
Well, it lists itself as a horror film. And like I said, the use of horror film tropes says to me you're trying to be a scary movie. Little jump scares, oh my god, the door open, there's scary noises coming from the other side, and I think it's definitely trying to be a scary movie.
Okay.
But at least to give off the impression of being, hey, I'm a scary movie, but I've got a message. So it's a little bit like a Mormon rocking up to your doorstep on Halloween in a sheet with eyes cut out of it, going, "Hi, boo, I'm scary. Here's take this book that Jesus wrote." It's not really pulling it off. So I don't understand that artistic choice from a director. In addition, it moves at a snail's pace. It is.
I was going to say, it's only an hour and 49 minutes, right?
It's the longest 90-minute film I've seen in a long time. That thing you do when you're streaming something and you push the button to see how long it's only 60 minutes, half an hour of this to go. I'm like, I want to like this film. I love Australian movies. I wish there were more of them, especially on the streaming services like Netflix and Stan and Prime. Stan at least does them. Props to Stan. Netflix and Prime, not so much. I'd love to see more scripted content, Australian content on these platforms, so I really want to support it. It's interesting, Stan I follow on Facebook, and they're constantly posting oh my god, The Guardian, 5-star review of Relic, and there's 50 comments on it going, boring, I thought it was boring, I hated it, it was boring. So it's one of those movies where we've got the classic audience critic split. So it's got a 77 on Metacritic. It's got a 6 on IMDb. I'm not sure what the audience score is on Metacritic, but I don't imagine it's good. As I just anecdotally, people you see who are commenting on those Facebook statuses say, not so much.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing. But if you're every now and again you see somebody who likes it, so I guess if you're really interested in the topic, or you're really keen for something new and Australian that might be a little bit creepy, maybe my last complaint about it is how it was shot. It's so dark. It is so dark. It's shot all in the dark and in a dark house in which nobody turns the lights on, ever. And, you know, that could have been explained away with one line of dialogue. Oh my God, the storm's happening and the wires, the electricity's out. And I will apologise in advance if there was such a line and I just missed it because I was so bored. But I didn't notice one. And at no point is anybody do that click, 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 click of a light switch. They're constantly turning on lamps. You know, little lights in the corner. So the absolute bare minimum of light in every scene. I found it frustrating at how hard it was to see what was happening in this film a lot of the time. So I feel like I'm being hypercritical of this film. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But it was hard to see. It was kind of slow. It was pretty boring. And the payoff was non-existent. So it's a thumbs down from me.
No, that's a thing.
To use the classic Roger Ebert, Siskel and Ebert, approach. It's a thumbs down, unfortunately. It's on your streaming platforms anyway. If you're desperate, it's there.
Do you think that part of the problem of it, if this had been retooled as just a straight drama and lost that attempt at horror, do you think it would be more interesting?
No. There's not a very interesting story here. Basically, the story is we have a mother who goes missing at the start of a film. We have the mother and the grandmother goes missing. The mother and the daughter turn up at the house of the grandmother to see if she's there, to figure out what the fuck's going on, to make phone calls, you know, put posters up, yada, yada, yada. A few days later, the grandmother turns up again, as if nothing ever happened. Okay. Oh, well, you know, I don't know where I was. Let's not talk about it anymore. La, la, la. Everything's wonderful. And they sort of generally talk around the topic and not really push it too hard to figure out where the hell she's been. And there's kind of a vibe where we're trying to play it off as like maybe something spooky and supernatural happened. But because it's advertising it at the front, what we're doing, you know, the manifestation of dementia. You know, it's advertising on its front of its fucking poster about what it's actually trying to say is, you know, there's no monster, she's just got dementia. You know, I mean, it doesn't actually explain how the fuck she, you know, managed to disappear for 5 days and just turn up again with nothing wrong with her. So that's not a particularly interesting story. I mean, if we take out the horror tropes, we've got a family movie about a mother and a daughter trying to cope with the fact that their beloved grandmother has dementia. Okay. How do you actually make that story interesting and not just be a turgid melodrama?
Have you seen the movie I Killed Giant?
Sorry?
Have you seen the movie I Killed Giant?
I have not.
It's really good. It follows a young girl and she is kind of ostracized at school a little bit, doesn't seem to have any friends, she seems distant, and she seems to go out into the woods to set up traps for giants. And through the movie, you actually see these like half shadows, that kind of blinking and miss it moments of giant coming through, or effect of giants happening on this town. And as the story progresses, you find out what it actually means. And it's beautiful. It's really, really well done. I do recommend it. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you because it is worthwhile emotional journey. But check it out if you can. I think it's on Netflix.
Well, it couldn't be much worse than this. And just to clarify, the Babadook has a 6.8 on IMDb. So,
no way!
Wow, that's harsh, and I think that goes to show that when you're trying to do something different in the horror genre, it's not an easy task. It is an uphill battle. If you're doing something that's not just some guy in a hockey mask stabbing someone, and you're trying to actually infuse your story with a little bit of subtext, that can be hard work. That's what people thought of the Babadook, because that film is fucking brilliant.
For anyone interested, Babadook is apparently available on Prime Video.
Yeah, that one's a recommend. A yes for the Babadook, a no for Relic for me.
Incidentally, another movie that is now available on Prime Video is The Twisted Death of a Lonely Madman, directed and written by my brother, Will Tarrant. So check it out. Yeah. You have to kind of go via Prime Video website, not through Prime Video app. But you can, if you're a Prime subscriber, you can actually book it.
No, that sounds complicated, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, check it out.
It has a 6 as well, so it has the same rating as Relic. So that was the main excursion cinematically for me this week. I have actually had a slight a bit of a gaming revelation, if you will.
Mm.
I decided to roll the dice this week because I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. Are you still playing Overwatch?
I haven't had much chance to actually jump on.
But I've been trying some new characters, which has been fun. But you know, every now and again, you're like, I've had enough of getting my ass handed to me by people who are a lot better at that game than me. So I want to do something a bit different. So I went onto Game Pass, and every now and again, you sort of cruise through Game Pass and go, yeah, whatever. This time I saw No Man's Sky, and I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. Now, for the gaming public, who might be fairly familiar with No Man's Sky, because it came out about 4 years ago with a hell of a lot of hype, massive hype.
It was a timed PlayStation exclusive.
It was, and I think it was crowdfunded originally, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but anyway, I could be wrong. It had a big reputation as having a theoretically infinite universe available for you to explore. And it came out, and they made a whole lot of promises about stuff you could do at launch. You could do cross-platform, yada yada yada. You can play with your friends, and there's all this shit you can do. And apparently, if I recall correctly, I wasn't really on board because I didn't have a PlayStation at the time. Was it basically broke a heap of those promises that it had made to players, and a lot of people felt very, very cheated by the product that was available at launch. In the sense, it was missing a lot of those features that had been promised, and it became a bit of a meme. For studios studios promising shit and not delivering, and basically delivering essentially a broken game on launch. And I mean, like I said, I wasn't particularly fussed because wasn't when I was planning on playing. Now it's available on Xbox Game Pass. And the one thing I've been hearing consistently for probably the last year, 18 months is, actually, it's pretty good now. So the developer has been delivering consistently over the last 4 years a number of free updates to the game, which at the point now where apparently it has all of the stuff and more that it promised at launch. Now, you can say what you will about that. That's actually maybe some people might say that's a dangerous thing to actually endorse that as a good thing, because that may encourage developers to continue to do the same thing, to deliver shitty broken games on launch and then go, oh, we'll fix it over the next year or so. I would argue that that's not the case, in the sense that I don't think this game has been anywhere near as successful as it may have been had it not had that. It's got that real stink about that name. You see No Man's Sky, if you hadn't been paying attention to what's been going on development-wise since, you would go, oh, well, that's that broken game, but didn't deliver anything. But anyway, so this is, as we said, it's a procedurally generated infinite universe type game. You wake up on a random planet. You are a spaceman, and you wake up next to your broken spaceship. You don't know who you are, you don't know where you are, you don't know what's going on. Essentially, the game then proceeds to direct you to go, hey, it might be a really good idea if you fix your spaceship, and tends to guide you through a series of gathering resources and crafting things to fix your ship. Then you need to do this and you need to do that, and to get off world, to start exploring the solar system, to visit space stations and the universe afterwards. Now, I'll be fair, I'm literally probably, I'd suggest, 10 hours into what must be some of these games you can sink hundreds of hours into. And you know what? It's kind of fun.
Okay.
It's kind of good. It's kind of like a space-based Minecraft.
Okay.
So there's lots of hey, you're running around a planet, it's got a caustic atmosphere, your spacesuit will protect you, but you need to constantly be renewing the resources in that spacesuit to keep your protection up. So to do that, you need to find certain types of resources on the planet to keep keep yourself safe from the radiation, or the caustic atmosphere, the poisonous atmosphere, or whatever it is that's going on. So that's one thing you've got to constantly keep an eye on. At the same time, you've got to be looking for a particular type of resource that will help you build a thing, that will help you build another thing, that will help you achieve whatever intermediate goal you've got for your quest you're on at the moment. The landscape is littered with relics and buried technology pods and all sorts of funky shit you can dig up and help you progress through the game faster, or learn things, or level up. So it is certainly, there's more to it than, say, a Minecraft, where you are completely up to you to make your own fun. There is a story. I don't know how good it's going to be. It's sort of slowly guiding me through at this point in time. And it's nicely integrated as sort of a tutorial story, going, you need to get off the planet to continue the story. So to get off the planet, we need to guide you through how to collect resources and craft things to fix your spaceship. It is quite a complex system, so there's quite a bit to it. And I think I do have a wiki open on my phone quite regularly for what's going on. It looks good. It chugs a little bit occasionally, but the landscapes are massive. I suspect at some point it might start to feel a little grindy, a little bit samey, because it's procedurally generated, and wow, there's a unique quadruped on this planet. Do I really care? Not really. I just want to continue to find the things I need to build the thing I need to go to the next thing. But I suspect there's quite a bit going on here. It seems that they've really built a lot of content here. It seems like my initial impressions, the further I go, is the deeper it seems to get. It is a particular kind of game. It's kind of zen. It's kind of chill.
That's what I've heard.
Kind of relaxing in a way. So this is exactly what I was in the mood for after. If you want high intensity, adrenaline pumping battles, and I would go back to Overwatch, because that's what that game's sort of about. But I'm kind of been doing that for the last couple of weeks. I'm in the mood for something a little bit slower. Then you can turn the difficulty up and make it a little bit harder and a little bit more intensive if you wish. But at this point in time, at the default level, it's a pretty zen sort of crafting, space exploration experience. And I don't know what it looked like at launch, but it's a thoroughly decent game, considering it's included on Game Pass. So it's essentially for $10 a month, which all the games in Game Pass, it's free essentially included in that. I think Xbox Game Pass is the best value in gaming going around right now.
It's great. It really is, and kind of leeching off of that a little bit. Next week we'll be able to talk a little bit more about the Xbox Series X, because Thursday/Friday for us, there'll be the big Xbox Series X blowout of games, and they might be talking a little bit more about the console itself. But the word on the street is the Series X is going to be backwards compatible for Xbox One, 360, and OG Xbox through all of its Game Pass and Xbox Live features, which means a fuck ton of games that you can just play.
I've also heard that Xbox Gold will be potentially free.
Yeah, that's the rumor. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have some information on that next week.
It really feels like they're going pro-consumer all the way here.
Yeah.
Like, when we remember, people forget that you launch of the Xbone, they were like, you won't be able to share games and stuff like that. You need to be online all the time until they're like, oh shit, people hate that. Maybe we shouldn't do it. So the launch of the original Xbone was actually kind of bungled because of that. It was the kind of
every Xbox had to have the Kinect.
Had to have the Kinect. Apparently the Kinect games are the ones that won't be backwards compatible. Did anybody keep mine? I tossed mine. But the other thing is worth mentioning is that I don't think it's available here in Australia yet, but Project xCloud is
that's right,
coming, right? So you'll be able to using a phone, stream any games, play your games on your phone that you own on Xbox. Which is fucking cool, right?
Yeah. The rumor is, I think, that kind of Xbox Live is going to be free, and it's going to be a new mutated version where Xbox Game Pass, xCloud, and Live all together for $15 or something over here, which is one hell of a deal.
It's a great deal, and in a way, that's kind of their pro-consumer sentiment is kind of what's keeping them alive, because PlayStation do have all the best games. But they are promising more first-party exclusives for Xbox on this generation. I mean, there's rumors going around of a new Fable game coming out.
There's the new Halo.
A new Halo. Who gives a shit about Halo anymore?
Well, apparently, something that I read today was the multiplayer of Halo Infinite is going to be free to play. And a lot of people love that multiplayer.
Yeah, so I haven't played a Halo game since Halo 3. But, I mean, the first two Halo games are good, but I think, it's... I think it's time to... maybe we're doing well. I'm sure they wouldn't make the games if they weren't selling a lot of them. But there's been a lot of talk that there'll be lots of first-party exclusives for Xbox this time around. I have to imagine Microsoft have realised that they've been beaten the hell and back by PlayStation on that front this generation.
And Switch is selling much more than...
Switch as well. I mean, they've got this, classic, the usual cast of Nintendo games, the Mario, Zelda, whatever games.
Speaking of... Segue. I picked up Paper Mario, the Origami King.
Yes, you were a little bit 50-50 in this last week.
Yeah, I just thought, fuck it. And it's very basic, but enjoyable. And it looks charming. It seems to be... I don't know whether to praise Nintendo for it or chastise them. They seem to have...
I've never played a Paper Mario game before. Tell me what it is.
They're RPGs, loosely, basically. And the Paper Mario series, the 1,000-Year Door from the GameCube, I think it was like held a very high level. And every time a new Paper Mario game comes out, it's like, oh yeah, we want it to be like that. And they keep kind of dumbing it down and making it more and more accessible and less of a story-based thing. And like the story for Origami King, I literally do not care about. The writing, the story is actually really, really funny. Like there's some signs that you'll get to and it's like, oh, such and such mountain, you're here. It's just very blunt, weird kind of comedy that they put into it. But the thing that Nintendo seems to be doing is themed their game based on crafting. Like the Origami King, everything is paper, and it looks like paper, which is great. There was Yoshi's, it's like yarn Yoshi, and everything was made up of yarn, and it looked adorable. And then there was a couple of other ones like Kirby and things like that. They had this kind of, all right, let's build a game based on this material, and the game doesn't really matter, but let's see if we can make that. And it looks beautiful, and it looks like wool or paper or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but give me a story. And it's kind of frustrating.
I think your initial thought was potentially it might have been aimed at a younger audience.
It definitely is. 100%.
How into Nintendo do I need to be to want to play this?
You don't want to play this game.
Not me specifically, but a person. You're right, I don't. But, Yeah. I haven't switched my Switch on for a month.
You're a terrible person. You should support local businesses and Golf Story. That's
Golf Story?
Yes. It's a Victoria-based production company. It's brilliant. It's been funny. It's enjoyable.
Is this like the Lee Caravello's putting challenge from The Simpsons or something?
No, this is actually good.
The ball is in car park.
But yeah, Paper Mario, I think it's trading too much on ease of play, because it is really easy and it's very accessible in that you can, I think people have been showing videos that they can map everything to a single Joy-Con, which is really good for accessibility for anyone who might have particular physical needs for controllers. Nintendo generally isn't very good at that.
Nobody is. Xbox are the only ones who've actually specifically designed a controller for people who have accessibility requirements.
Yeah. But aside from that, this is definitely a younger person's game. It's enjoyable though, and there is kind of a cathartic release. Like, there's parts of the paper world that have been eaten, and you throw confetti on it, and there's something kind of cathartic and nice about repairing the world slowly but surely. There's a money system in it, but you get so much fucking money, it does not cross my mind. Like, oh, I've got to be careful. I might not be able to afford this. Like, yeah, I'll just rip some shit up, I'll kill some bad guys, I'll make more money. There's no stress in the whole game. It's kind of delightful in that. It's kind of brainless.
So it sounds like, again, almost in its own way, kind of a zen, relaxing game experience. Not really one you're going to have to feel a lot of tension or stress from.
Yeah, it's a perfect partner for while I watch Breaking Bad.
So you're gaming and watching Breaking Bad. I'm not sure. I feel like I suddenly feel a lot less confident in your review of a show if that's what you're doing.
No, I'm not doing it. I watch Breaking Bad and then I play Paper Mario too.
So that's something you would definitely need it after that.
Yeah. So what's that? Just making some notes. No, I don't have anything else to talk about.
I don't think I do either. I might have watched something else, but it's kind of escaped my brain. So, and that's a solid show for the Russian bots if they're still listening.
Yeah. I think it might be possibly Indonesian bots at this moment.
Indonesian bots this week. Is there an election someone needs to rig in Indonesia, I wonder?
Yes, we offer that service.
We're open to help in that front if there's financial assistance required, sponsorship involved in making
helping governments.
Helping publish George's next book.
Yes. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Next week, we will be talking about Starship Troopers, following on chapter at the end. And I already have the next movie after that lined up, but I won't tell anyone what that is until...
I got to be honest, I really want to get us to watch an Australian film, and it's got Hugo Weaving in it. And so I was desperately trying to find the link between Starship Troopers, someone in Starship Troopers and Hugo Weaving, but I couldn't find one before the show went to air, but I'll just have to keep that one in my back pocket.
Well, the tease that I will give, our connecting tissue to the next movie is Michael Ironside.
That could take us anywhere from Total Recall to Terminator Salvation.
He has had a very broad career.
He's a great character actor.
True.
But there we go. Something to look forward to. You'll have to tune in next week to figure out where the chain takes us to next. We should be writing this down. I should write this down somewhere where the chains come from at this point in time.
I think I can actually go back. So we had Sleepy Hollow. Before that, we had Withnail I. Before that was Hudson Hawk. Before that was King of Comedy. Before that was shit.
Legend?
Yes, because it was the writer.
The writer.
Top Gun.
Final Countdown.
And Philadelphia Experiment.
Philadelphia Experiment, and before that was Streets of Fire.
Streets of Fire, yes. Yeah, so we're okay.
And we all started with Michael Paré.
Yeah, like everything.
Life for universe, meaning of life for universe, and everything is Michael Paré.
42 Michael Parés in a room with a typewriter.
That's it. So there we go. That's what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it because we got no new movies to review. Tenet was supposed to come out next week, but coming out anytime soon.
And they still refuse to release New Mutants.
Yeah, I don't understand that. What do you think? You're going to get a cinema release for that shit? Stick it on a streaming service somewhere. Stick it on Disney Plus.
Well, there's a reason they put Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus, because they knew it was going to pop.
And Greyhound as well. Apparently that's not very good either.
I think that's an Apple one.
No, is it Apple? You're right. I think, yeah. But anyway, the shit
is
floating to the surface on the streaming services. Like, I mean, Old Guard, sorry, we talked about last week. Apparently it's become one of the most streamed films on Netflix ever.
Well, the things are rather slim at the moment, so
if there's one way to get your shite film seen by a lot of people, and that's stick it on a streaming service.
You're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yay, pandemics!
Until
Bring
next
out your
time.
dead. Bring out your dead.
I'm not dead yet.
Not just the pandemic people, but your films. If your film is dead, now is the time to dump it.
Do you have a DOA on arrival system?
Now, you'd be like, the Netflix guys would be just ringing up, go, you got any crap, anything that's been sitting on the shelf? I can't believe New Mutants hasn't come out yet.
I know. That can't be a good movie when it comes out.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be the Duke Nukem 3 of new movies.
Do you reckon it's as bad as a New Zealand movie?
Sorry?
Do you reckon
it wouldn't possibly be that bad, but I mean, you know, like...
Are we thinking on a par with Josh Trank's Fantastic Four?
I think that's probably more realistic. Like, Uwe Boll films are just, reprehensibly awful, but, like, I never think at House of the Dead, there's a scene in House of the Dead where they're supposed to be on the world's most awesome rave on this island, and it's like 4 guys, and a DJ's tent that has Sega written on the side. It's like, at no point was there a decent rave on this island. It's just terrible. It can't be that bad. I'm thinking more of a sense it's going to be a mess. A mess of, they've had multiple different guys come in and edit it and slice it and dice it to try and make it look better, and you're just going to go, you're not fooling anybody.
Yeah. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.